Welcome back to the Dragon Den. My loyal Dragon Knights, King of Dragons 5000 is back with another action figure review. Today we'll be taking a look at the Frazetta Girls Fire and Ice Darkwolf. And here we have Darkwolf posing out of the packaging looking all intimidating. Before we have a look at the figure, let's run through his accessories. Darkwolf does come with 3 different mouth expressions which all look really good, as well as several sets of hands for style posing and holding his various weapons. Finally, Darkwolf does come with his battle axe as well as a bow and 3 arrows. So a decent batch of accessories here on Darkwolf. So with those out of the way, let's have a closer look at his details. So here we have a closer look at the Fire and Ice Darkwolf, and overall they did an amazing job with his details. The amount of details here on Darkwolf is very impressive. They did a really good job here. First, taking a look at his head sculpt, they did a really good job with his headdress. His headdress is done in this really nice black plastic, and the detailing all throughout the fur looks really good. He does have yellow piercing eyes which do a good job contrasting against the black finish of the plastic. And you can see his stern expression is done perfectly here. The headdress also drapes down over his shoulders, which is a really nice detail. Taking a look at Darkwolf's body, they did an amazing job sculpting all his muscles. Not only does he have really good definition, but I love the skin texture that they added to him. Add to it, the striations in all his muscles are looking really good, and you can see some veins going across his chest. And around his neck you can see he is wearing a necklace with various bones and a skull on the front. His arms are just as muscular as his torso, and the muscle definition here is done really well. The texturing on his skin is perfect. Along with the striations in the muscles, you can still see some veins on his biceps and going down his forearms. And around his wrists you can see he is wearing studded leather bands. Around his waist, Darkwolf is wearing a really big leather belt which has some impressive details to it. The sculpt work on his belt does a really good job representing worn leather, and I love the metal studs that are going around his belt. His belt is highlighted by the gold bands going around the top and the bottom, and you can see he has a worn centerpiece that looks really good in gold. Bringing the barbarian look together, he is wearing a loincloth which has a lot of nice detail, and the paint job on his loincloth is done very well. His legs are just as muscular as the rest of his body, and just like with his arms and the torso, his skin texture is flawless. As far as his boots go, he is wearing a He-Man style boot where we do have some fur at the top and leather bands on the bottom. Both the fur and the leather bands have a lot of nice paint detail to them, so overall the paintwork on his boots is fantastic. And it all comes down to his leather shoes, which look really good, continuing that very nice worn leather look. So overall the details here on Darkwolf are perfect, and everything on him from the striations in his muscles all the way to the paint is flawless. With his details out of the way, let's get Darkwolf compared to our usual suspects. Here we have Darkwolf posed next to a Marvel Legends Cyclops and DC Multiverse Superman, Mattel's WWE Elite Series and Mezco's 1/12 Collective Popeye the Sailor Man, the Lightning Collection White Ranger, and the Star Wars Black Series Mandalorian. So as you can see, Darkwolf is a very intimidating figure, standing slightly taller than most of your toy lines. So with his comparisons out of the way, let's have a look at Darkwolf's articulation. Darkwolf has a double ball joint in his head, arms go out to the side and do a full 360, a swivel at his shoulder and a hinge and swivel at his elbow, swivel hinge at his wrists. Darkwolf does have a double ball joint in his midsection. His legs do kick forward, go back, out to the side, and have a thigh swivel. He has a single bend in the knee. Finally, he has a hinge into the ankle and forward-facing pin for rocker. Unfortunately, Darkwolf doesn't have the most articulation that we've seen, but there is a reason for that which we'll talk about in a minute. So with everything said and done about the Fire and Ice Darkwolf, let's get him posed for my final thoughts. The Frazetta Girls Fire and Ice Darkwolf is a very impressive looking figure, and that's one thing they were aiming for with Darkwolf. Darkwolf has a great presentation, especially if pulling him out of the packaging you see all this really rich details in him. I absolutely love the proportions here on Darkwolf. They're very human-esque, and I absolutely love the sculpt work that they put into his skin. Darkwolf looks very nice, and that was the priority of Frazetta girls, to make this figure look as impressive as possible. However, in doing so, they did limit some of his articulation, so unfortunately he doesn't have a traditional bicep swivel, double joints in his elbows, or his knees. If you're a fan of superposable figures, Darkwolf might be a turnoff. However, I think the choices here that they made for the aesthetics was well made. Darkwolf can still pose and get himself in a lot of great poses, so articulation is not an issue here. I'm honestly not familiar with the Fire and Ice franchise, but Darkwolf here looked like a very impressive figure, and I knew I had to add him to my collection. Looking back at it, I think I made the right call, as Darkwolf is a very impressive figure to look at, and he's really fun to pose. The only issue with Darkwolf is he does sell out rather fast. He sold out on the Frazetta website, and at the moment I'm making this video, he is on pre-order from Big Bad Toy Store. If you're a fan of Darkwolf, you're definitely going to want to have this figure in your collection, and do pick him up fast, as pre-orders tend to sell out really quickly. So with that being said, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, and check out all my other action figure videos. If you're in a position to help out the channel, check out my Patreon, where I have some exclusive content and early access to all my videos. Check out my Instagram account for new and exciting action figure photos, videos, recent pickups, latest prints, and as always, ring that bell so you never miss another video. So until next time, my loyal Dragonites, coming from the Dragon Den, I'm KingofDragons 5000, reminding you to redesign, rebuild, and reclaim. I'll see you next time.